You've probably heard the saying, size doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it
Yeah.
comes to, well,
Certain things.
yeah. But is that, like, actually true? Or is that just something people say?
It's a question people have been wondering for, well, probably as long
As
as,
long as there have been
yeah.
things to measure. So, in today's deep dive,
Yeah.
we are talking all about penis size. Does it really matter?
And surprisingly, there's actually been a lot of research on this very topic.
There has. We've got studies to dive into, articles, all that good stuff. Some of them are, well,
A little older.
yeah, going back a couple decades. But some of them are more recent. So we're going to unpack all of that and see if we can bust some myths.
And maybe learn a thing or two along the way.
Exactly. All right, so let's jump right in with this 2001 study. It made some waves when it came out because it claimed that width, when it comes to what women find satisfying, width might actually be more important than length.
Yeah, that one definitely got people talking. And I mean, it's important to remember this was a smaller study and everyone's experiences are different.
Of course. Of course.
But it did bring up a really interesting point about clitoral stimulation.
Right, and like how much it plays a role. And that's something we don't always talk about openly and honestly, even though it's so important.
That's true.
So this study, it suggested that a wider penis, might mean more contact with the clitoris during intercourse, which could be why it was linked to,
Greater satisfaction.
yeah. And it makes you think about how much we maybe don't talk about the clitoris, even though it's like
It's a key player in female pleasure. For many women, it's essential for orgasm.
huge.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the clitoris, obviously.
Right.
It's about understanding that everyone's anatomy is different,
Of course. Yeah.
and that plays a role too.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting how, like, this study kind of brought that to light,
For sure. And it challenged kind of those outdated ideas of what sex should be,
Really,
Like
yeah.
there's not one right way to experience pleasure.
Not at all. And female sexual response, it's complicated, right?
It is.
It's not just about penetration.
No.
It's about all those nerve endings and the different types of stimulation.
Absolutely.
And of course, let's not forget the emotional connection involved.
Huge part of it. And that's something we see come up in later research as well. Yeah. So there was this 2012 study from the Journal of Sexual Medicine, and they found a link, this time between penis size and orgasm frequency.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It was only for vaginal orgasms, and it was only for some of the women who were part of the study.
Well, hold on. I think we need to back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because not everyone listening might know that there's even a difference between, like, a vaginal orgasm and a clitoral orgasm.
Oh, right.
Yeah, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so they actually involve different parts of the nervous system.
Oh, wow.
And they can feel really different for different people. Some women find it easier to have one type of orgasm versus the other. Some experience both. Sometimes it's both at the same time.
Yeah.
The point is, it's really individual. There's a lot of variation.
It's not one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And like you were saying, it's so different for everyone. And don't forget, there's a whole other half to this equation,
Oh, you mean vaginas. I was kind of wondering when we were going to get to those.
Exactly. I mean, it's not just about penises, right? Vaginas come in different shapes and sizes too, and that can definitely have an impact on compatibility and, satisfaction and all of that.
That's true. Makes sense. And like we were talking about with the clitoris, there are a lot of misunderstandings about how vaginas actually, work.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We've got this Medical News Today article here, and it actually gets into all that. Like, can we please finally put this whole myth about vaginas loosening to rest?
Oh my gosh, yes, please. Like, let's just kill that myth once and for all.
It drives me crazy.
It's so not true. The vagina is like incredibly elastic. It's designed to expand and contract, right? It can accommodate, different sizes, different
I'm
activities.
glad to hear that.
It doesn't just like permanently change shape based on, what's been inside of it or anything like that.
Whew. What a relief. That's good to know. Although this article does say that, like, childbirth or surgery can have an impact on the pelvic floor muscles.
Right. And those muscles are really important when we're talking about like sensation and sexual function.
Right.
But the main takeaway here is that vaginas are unique. There's no like right way for it to look or feel,
That is so important for people to hear. Honestly, with all the pressure out there to look a certain way, feel a certain way, it's like we forget that bodies are diverse.
It's true. Bodies are amazing. And they come in all these variations. And you know what? This actually ties into another really important point that often gets missed in these conversations about size.
Okay, what's that?
Communication.
Oh, right. Because even if you have, like, all the right parts, so to speak, if you're not communicating with your partner.
Yeah, you're probably not having as much fun,
Huh.
right?
Probably missing out on a lot of pleasure.
Exactly. And this article really highlights that, like, open and honest communication, it's so crucial in any sexual relationship,
For sure.
but especially when it comes to, like, addressing those anxieties that people might have, insecurities around size, and also just figuring out what feels good for both partners.
And it's not just about talking about it like before or after sex, right?
No,
During.
it's in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, letting your partner know what feels good.
Yeah.
Asking for what you want, paying attention to their responses.
It's like a feedback loop.
Yes.
You're going back and forth and figuring it out together.
Exactly.
And, it's amazing how many people, and I mean, this goes for all genders, but how many people feel uncomfortable actually expressing those needs and desires in the bedroom
Totally.
when really clear and compassionate communication, that can make all the difference
Huge.
in finding that, like, sweet spot of mutual pleasure.
It really is. It's about figuring it out together. Like you said, it's a two-way street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, trying different things, experimenting a little.
Right. This article actually talks about that a little bit, like experimenting with lubrication, foreplay.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
All of that can make such a big difference.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Absolutely. And, thinking outside the box a bit, like, a little extra stimulation can go a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whether it's clitoral stimulation for women or, manual or oral sex for men,
Right.
there are all these ways to increase pleasure that go beyond just intercourse.
Beyond just the main event, yeah.
Exactly. So it's all about, exploring, figuring out what works for you as a couple.
It sounds like what we're learning here is that there's no one magic answer.
Exactly.
There's so many different factors.
Not just about size.
No.
Yeah.
And focusing on that is kind of like, I don't know.
Missing the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that really matter, like we can actually control those, right? The communication, the intimacy, the emotional connection.
Exactly. Those are all things that we can work on, we can cultivate, regardless of our anatomy.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's very empowering when you
Yeah.
think about it that way.
It is. It takes the pressure off.
Right.
Trying to meet these, like, idealized standards, and it brings the focus back to what really matters.
What actually matters, yeah.
Yeah, connection, pleasure, mutual respect, all of that good stuff.
All the good stuff. Well, this has been really interesting. I feel like we've debunked some myths today,
Hopefully a few.
challenged some assumptions,
Yeah.
and just given everyone listening a lot to think about.
And hopefully, got some conversations started.
Yes, exactly. Because I think these are conversations that we need to be having more openly.
100%. Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, is there like one final thought you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah.
Something for them to ponder maybe
Yeah.
as they continue this conversation on their own.
I think it all comes back to this question of what actually makes for a good sexual experience, what's satisfying, what's pleasurable. And the truth is, that's different for everyone. So my question to you listening is, what does sexual pleasure and fulfillment mean to you?
Oh, that's a good one. That's something to think about. Well, thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us.
Thanks for having me.
This was great. And listeners, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.